What's going on, guys? Victor here with one more video. I just wanted to touch on this subject really fast. I'm talking about the UFC gloves. The UFC happens to be the leader in mixed martial arts. We all know that. There's no other organization that's anywhere close to being near the UFC or having as much success as the UFC has had in the past 31 years. So, as a result, we have to talk about the gloves. There's been way too many fights in the UFC that have been canceled as a result of eye pokes. Obviously, we just had the recent one with Bruno Silva versus Chris Weidman. Way too many eye pokes in that fight. We also had Angelusa versus Brian Battle, an eye poke at the end of the fight. We also had Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz. That ended with an eye poke. We also had Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stevens. That ended with an eye poke. Way too many fights have ended with an eye poke for the UFC organization. When it comes to the UFC, they are not number one in one subject, and that one subject has to be the gloves that they utilize for their fighters. Obviously, the gloves extend the fingers of the fighters out like this, so when the fighters are trying to fight, obviously they have their guard, and they're trying to feint. They're feinting with their hands, with their fingers extended at all times, just like that. So when they try to go in for a jab, obviously the possibilities of swiping the eye or getting a finger in the eye of your opponent is very imminent, and it's most likely going to happen. The same thing when you get into grappling situations. You're trying to get up and you're trying to get your opponent away from you. You tend to extend your hands just like that, and there's a possibility of swiping the eyes of your opponent. You can be able to poke your opponent in many ways, swipe your opponent in the eyes in many ways. And the UFC, it's just way too many fights have been canceled. Way too many fights have been called off as a result of the eye pokes. You know, no fight has been canceled because of eye pokes, but they've been called off very, very, very early, and that's something that has to change as fast as possible. Back in the day, Pride used to have gloves that would curve the fingers in like this that prevent the number of eye pokes from happening. And you got other organizations out there around the world that beat the UFC when it comes to their gloves. I'm talking about Bellator, the PFL, even regional promotions are beating the UFC when it comes to the gloves that they use to protect your fighters. UFC, protect your fighters, protect these fights that are going to happen in the future from being called off very, very early and from having even more bad situations, because not only are you trying to protect your fighters, you're trying to protect the fighter's health, for crying out loud. And some fighters have had eye injuries that have prolonged them for years and have given them problems for many, many years as a result of these eye pokes. Some of these eye pokes are pretty partial, or some of these eye pokes are way into the eyes of their opponents. So this is something that's got to have to change. I'm going to put a photo in this video so you guys can see the old Pride gloves versus the current UFC gloves, how the current UFC gloves extend your fingers while the old Pride gloves curve your fingers, so it prevents the number of eye pokes from even happening at all. So I just want to put a quick video when it came to that. The UFC has to change those gloves right now. Hopefully someone's working on it. There's way too much technology the UFC can be able to utilize, and all the resources that they have at their disposal to be able to change these gloves. So there shouldn't be any more excuses of why they should be able to keep the style of gloves that they have right now. Why not curve them? You got all the money in the world. You got all the technology in the world. You got all the resources in the world. Let's make it happen, guys. Please, let's make it happen. That way we can stop all this nonsense with the eye pokes, because we're seeing way too many of now. Way too many of them now. Obviously, I did name 2 or 3 of them that have happened, but there's been way more that's happened in the past. But those are just the ones that came up at the top of my head. Appreciate you guys for watching this video. What do you guys think about the UFC gloves? Should they change it? Should the old gloves go? Should we get new ones? Should they get new ones? And how should they be? Should they be more curved? Tell me, guys. I'd like to know. And also, I'm sorry for the fire detectors as well. They've been going off for a while now. I'm still trying to get those fixed. Bear with me, guys. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Take it easy, guys.